Hi everyone, it's Cass. Welcome back to my channel, What Cass Read. Today I'm going to bring you my spoiler-free review of Red Sister, written by Mark Lawrence. So Red Sister is a story. It's the first book in a brand new trilogy by Mark Lawrence. It is called the first book of the Ancestor trilogy. It follows a young girl named Nona Gray, and when we first meet Nona Gray, she is sentenced to death by hangman's noose, but then a mysterious abbot from the convent of Sweet Mercy comes to her aid and ends up rescuing her. She takes her to her convent of Sweet Mercy, and that's where Nona's whole life basically begins. She becomes a novice in the convent, but there's something a little bit different about this convent, and that is that they're also training to be magical assassin nuns. There's weapons training, there's magic training called the Path, and then of course there's their histories, there's spiritual lessons, and so on and so forth. However, even though Nona has been taken to this convent, the mysteries of her past don't necessarily leave her behind. The thing that she was sentenced for and set to hang for does keep coming back to her, and will she be able to overcome it? Will she be able to conquer these enemies who actually sentenced her? And the book takes off from there. So the first thing is I want to talk about the world building. This has to be some of the best world building that I've encountered in a book series for a while, and truthfully this is the second book that I had ever read by Mark Lawrence. The first one that I had read was Prince of Thorns. That was his first novel ever, and that one was not as impressive to me, and so I was a little bit nervous. I had a lot of trepidation with picking up Red Sister because I was like, oh, maybe I'm just not a Mark Lawrence fan. That is completely wrong. Based on the characters in here, based on the world building, based on everything inside this book. So the world in here, we are living in a globe, and the moon, the light from the moon is waning, and somehow the earth and the moon, like the light of the moon, has been focused around a singular point because there's ice creeping all across the globe, and so civilization has had to move closer and closer in while the ice has crept closer and closer in till people are only living on this like spherical corridor. All of civilization is living on this spherical corridor, and then there's a few different tribes that live out on the ice actually. All of the strife that happens in this book has a lot to do with the fact that the moon is dying and the ice is closing in. And how are we going to prevent the ice from completely closing off the earth? There's also lots of different settings that we encounter inside this book. Of course, there's the convent of Sweet Mercy. That's where we meet a lot of Nona's fellow novices. That's where we meet a lot of the sisters and the abbess and everyone who makes Sweet Mercy Convent as great as it is. There's so many different buildings in this convent. One's really creaky. You have the mess hall, you have the bathhouses, you have these different little pockets of areas that the novices like to secret away to. You have their dormitories, and how each different class of the novices has better and better dormitories as they move up the ranks. There's just so much packed into the world building of the convent, and then as we piece through this book, we start getting more of the town, more of the classes, like societal classes outside of the convent. There is also a magic system in here. There's a couple different kinds, actually. This world was built by 4 different tribes, and each of the tribes has their own different special ability. And as the humans populated the earth, and these tribes bred out, like very few people will manifest some of these traits from the 4 original tribes, but every once in a while you'll get one person with like really dominant traits from an original tribe, and some of these people do end up having more than one trait from an original tribe. So we have the Gerent tribe, and they're supposed to grow like super huge and super strong. We have our Hunska tribe. That's what we initially believe Nona Gray to be, because she's super speedy, super fast. I mean, like, they're faster than the eye can actually catch people. The Marjal tribe, they tap into the lesser magic, so maybe shadow magics and things like that. And then the Quantal tribe is the one who is able to reach our path magic. The path magic being this really nebulous kind of magic, and if you've ever read the Realm of the Elderling series by Robin Hobb, the path magic reminds me so much of skill magic. You're constantly trying to bring yourself to the path, and once you reach the path, your powers are just completely maximized, and just the abilities that you have, the path will flow through you, that sort of thing. So it's a very nebulous kind of magic. Not everyone is able to reach the path, and it's a very rare and difficult skill to have. You know, we do encounter enter the chosen one trope in here, but what I like about this one is that even though we know Nona Gray has exhibited at least one form of this like original tribe magic, we don't necessarily know if she's the chosen one because there are a couple other candidates inside the convent that could potentially be the chosen one as well. So that's going to bring me into talking about the characters in this book. Obviously, we do have Nona Gray, our main character. She has a really mysterious past, and the thing about Nona and the mystery of her past is that she wants to keep it that way. She experienced some trauma as a child, and we don't really know why. We don't really know what it is because Nona consistently changes her story and she consistently lies to her friends at the convent. But she's really small and really fast, and that's how she's gotten by at this point. And so she really likes to keep her secrets to herself. We also meet the abbess of Sweet Mercy, and she is like, I love her so much. She's kind of no nonsense. She's very logical, and she's got a plan, but you don't really know what the plan is. She wants Nona to trust her. She wants the sisters, the various nuns, confirmed nuns, to trust her because she's got a really big vision. She's very well connected in this community, in the large-scale community within the religion, and she knows a lot of the big, heavy players, some of the players being the ones who tried to convict Nona in the beginning. So she's very familiar with all of that stuff, and it'll be really exciting as the story moves forward to see exactly like how her plans come out. Like, will they come out? Is she going to let anyone in on them and that sort of thing? And then there are just the variety of the nuns that we meet. There's the variety of novices that we meet. Nona has her clique group, and there's a lot of change that happens within the clique group, as any young group of women would have. They're aged like 10 through 14 in her age group, and so just the different things that happen to young girls at that point in time, but also their interactions with one another and who is allowed to be a part of their friend group and how they interact with one another. I love the dynamic for that. And then the same thing with the nuns. You have like this social hierarchy within the nuns as well, because there's some of the nuns that have been at the convent for years, and then some that are just took on their habits. There's a little bit of a romance. This book is entirely not a romance, but one of my favorite side romances is a pair of the nuns are in love with each other, and it's so sweet and so beautiful. So my thoughts on this book are that you should definitely pick it up. There are some content warnings for some animal abuse and very small bits of child abuse. It happens a lot more in the beginning of the book while we're kind of piecing together moments from Nona's past. But as soon as we move past that, I would say that there's not any of that sort of content, but just to let you know that that is in here. I listened to this on audiobook, and I have to say that this narrator was superb. It's a female narrator for all female characters. Like, her voices are great. It's really soothing. And I'd say if you're interested in this but don't want to necessarily read, if you like audiobooks, this was one of my favorite audiobooks that I picked up all last year. So overall, I did give this book 4 out of 5 stars. For me, the start of it was a little bit slow. We pieced little bits of Nona's past together. Then we were able to progress through the convent and see the different relationships that formed among the different novices and how Nona was doing in her studies. I think this will speak to a lot of people because of the familiar school setting, and it's just a really great setting to build these kinds of skills and learn who's who. But the beginning did move a little bit slow while we were getting to the convent, because I was like, I knew that this was a book about magical assassin nuns, and I just was like, where are the magical assassin nuns already? So yeah, I did rate this 4 out of 5 stars. Holy Sister, which is the 3rd book in this trilogy, comes out later this year in April, and that is my most anticipated read of the entire year. So I'm anxiously awaiting for that one. I will be reading that one on audiobook as well, so love this trilogy. Super excited, super glad that I gave Mark Lawrence a second chance with this. So this has made me believe that maybe I should go back and check out some of the earlier trilogies that I just kind of had written off a little bit, because this one completely made me a believer and made me a Mark Lawrence fan. Alright, so put some comments in the comment section below. Have you read Red Sister? Let me know what you think about it. Or are you still kind of on the fence about whether or not you should start Red Sister? Let me know that too, because I've gotten quite a few comments whenever I bring up Red Sister or Gray Sister that people are like, oh yeah, I meant to start that, or I don't know if I want to start that. Let me know if you're on the fence too, and whether or not this review helped you out a little bit. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. It's at whatcassread, same as this channel. Super easy to find, so if you want to have a conversation with me about any of the books on there, or just let me know what you think about Red Sister on social media, you can do that. And you can also follow me on my Goodreads account. That link is always going to be listed down below for you. Otherwise, you know how these videos end. I'll talk to you later. Bye.